Mom! Look at Grandma's pajamas. Sophie's voice echoed through the laundry room. I peered into the laundry basket. My mother-in-law Linda's pajama sleeve, there were multiple small holes and stains from a clear liquid. Grandma was always crying that it hurt right here. Sophie's innocent voice. My hands started trembling. But until that moment, I hadn't suspected a thing. We were supposed to be just a normal family. 3 years ago, it all began suddenly. That day, my husband Marcus called me at work. His voice was shaking. Mom collapsed. Come to the hospital right away. I rushed out of the office and headed to the hospital. Linda lying in an ICU bed. Just last week she'd been smiling at us while working in the garden, but now she lay there emaciated, like a completely different person. Dr. Harrison's diagnosis was cold and clear. It's an unexplained neurological disorder. Unfortunately, the prognosis for recovery is extremely poor. Most likely, she'll remain bedridden indefinitely. Marcus squeezed my hand tightly. His sister Vanessa rushed over still in her nursing scrubs, asking the doctor technical questions. As a family, we were trying to face this crisis together. After her discharge, I made a big decision. I gave up my career as a graphic designer to become a full-time homemaker and dedicate myself to caring for Linda. Marcus was busy as a sales manager at a pharmaceutical company, often away on weekends for client entertainment and business trips. Vanessa said reassuringly, "Leave the medical stuff to me. I know all the care she needs." Every day flowed with the same rhythm. I'd wake at 6 and go to Linda's room. Change her position, wipe her face, speak to her gently. "Good morning, Linda. Another beautiful day today." Linda couldn't speak, could only move her eyes. But I felt something dwelled in those eyes. I thought it was hope. Preparing breakfast. Vanessa brought specially mixed nutritional paste twice a week. I've put in all the nutrients Mom needs for her condition. I had no reason to doubt my sister-in-law, a medical professional. I'd slowly spoon it into Linda's mouth. One bite, then another. Sometimes tears would flow from Linda's eyes. "Does it hurt? Is it too hard?" I'd ask, but no answer came. Only tears streaming down her cheeks. Bath assistance was every other day. Supporting Linda's thin body, I'd wash her carefully. Bones protruding all over. Her plump figure from 3 years ago was nowhere to be found. "Linda, I wish you'd eat more." At my words, Linda's eyes would move slightly. But I didn't understand what it meant. My only solace was my 5-year-old daughter Sophie. Every day when she came home from school, she'd go straight to Grandma's room. "Grandma, guess what? I drew flowers in art class today. Look." She'd hold up her kindergarten drawing in front of Linda's eyes. Linda's eyes seemed to brighten slightly. Sophie would say happily, "Grandma's smiling." A child's pure eyes might see things we adults can't. But my own health had somehow gone wrong too. My hands trembled. Even when I woke in the morning, my body felt heavy as lead. My concentration wouldn't last, and even keeping simple household accounts took longer and longer. When I talked to Marcus about it, he said kindly, "Don't push yourself too hard. You're exhausted from caregiving and raising Sophie. Why don't you rest sometimes?" Vanessa was considerate too, "You're under stress. Rest when I'm here." On the surface, we were a kind, cooperative family. Marcus, even tired from work, checked on Linda's condition. Vanessa visited between work shifts to give medical advice. Our neighbor Mrs. Chen would say, "It must be so hard, Claire. Here, have this for dinner," occasionally bringing homemade food. My former colleague Rachel called once a month, "You need a break. Let's have lunch sometime." Every night, I'd sit by Linda's bedside and say, "Good night, Linda," kissing her forehead. Sophie would whisper in her small voice, "Night, Grandma. I love you." Linda's eyes would gaze at us. I didn't yet know what those tears meant. One night, around 2 a.m., I woke up thirsty. Walking down the hall, I saw light leaking from Linda's room. The door was slightly open, and I could see Marcus. Just as I was about to call out, Marcus came out of the room. "Oh, Claire. I was checking on Mom. Sometimes her breathing gets irregular." I smiled and said, "Thank you," then returned to my bedroom. Marcus was kind, Vanessa was cooperative. I believed Linda's tears were from her illness, and my health problems were from fatigue. An ordinary, somewhat tiring, but still normal family routine. That's what I believed. Until that Sunday morning, when my daughter cried out in the laundry room. That morning, Marcus said, "I'm going golfing," and left. Sunday golf had become a habit recently. It's networking with clients. As he loosened his tie at the front door, I could see he was tired. Being a sales manager at a pharmaceutical company meant no days off, really. "Have a good time," I said as I saw him off, and Marcus kissed me lightly. "I'll be back after lunch. Take care of Mom." His gentle voice. The usual words. I nodded with a smile. Around 9, Vanessa called. "Claire, I'm going shopping today, so I'll check on Mom this evening." Vanessa's cheerful voice. She'd been working night shifts as a nurse, so she needed rest on Sundays. "Take it easy," I said. "Thanks. Call if anything comes up." The phone clicked off. Only Sophie, Linda, and I were home now. Cleaning up breakfast in the kitchen, I organized today's schedule in my head. Laundry, Linda's bath, lunch prep, a walk to the park with Sophie. Sunday routine. Nothing different, just another Sunday. "Mom, I'll help." Sophie ran into the kitchen. My 5-year-old had recently fallen in love with helping out. "Thank you, Sophie. Let's collect the laundry together, shall we?" Sophie nodded happily. "Grandma's room too?" "Yes, Grandma's room too." When I opened Linda's door, morning sunlight streamed through gaps in the curtains. Linda lay in bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. "Good morning, Linda. It's a beautiful day today." I spoke to her as always. Linda's eyes turned slightly toward me. "Grandma, good morning." Sophie rushed to the bedside and held Linda's hand. A tear ran down Linda's cheek. I gently wiped it with a tissue, whispering, "It's all right, Linda. We're here with you today too." Linda's lips seemed to move slightly. Was she trying to say something? But no sound came. I hadn't heard her voice once in 3 years. "Mom, where's Grandma's laundry?" Sophie's voice pulled me back to reality. "Oh, sorry. The basket's next to the bed." The small wicker basket held Linda's pajamas and towels. Sophie tried to lift the basket with both hands, but it looked a bit heavy. "Mom, it's heavy." I laughed and said, "Let's carry it together then," adding my hands. Walking down the hallway, Sophie started chattering. "Mom, after laundry, can we go to the park?" "Of course. We'll go after lunch." "Yay! I want to go on the swings." Sophie's bouncing voice. Without this child, I couldn't have made it through these 3 years. The burden of caregiving, the loneliness, and my recent health problems. But every time I saw Sophie's smile, I found the strength to keep going. When we reached the laundry room, other laundry was already piled next to the washing machine. Yesterday's towels, Sophie's clothes, my clothes. Sunday was laundry day. "All right, let's sort." I sat on the floor and started separating laundry by color. Whites, colors, delicates. Sophie copied me, touching the laundry with her small hands. "Mom, where does this go?" Sophie held up a white towel. That goes in the whites pile. Sophie, looking serious, placed the towel in the right spot. I did it. Good job, Sophie. I patted my daughter's head. I started taking out Linda's laundry. Pajamas, underwear, towels. Vanessa had said, Mom's skin is sensitive, so don't use fabric softener, so I use specially gentle detergent. Sorting carefully, piece by piece. That's when Sophie pulled something from the bottom of the basket. Mom! Look at this. Sophie's voice was higher than usual. I looked up. Sophie was holding Linda's pajama top with both hands. Light pink, cotton pajamas. Linda's favorite. But something was different. What is it, Sophie? I stood up and approached Sophie. Sophie held out the pajama sleeve to me. Mom, this is weird. The moment I took it, my finger touched something. Part of the sleeve fabric felt unnaturally stiff. Like something had soaked in and dried. I held the sleeve up to the light. In the morning sun streaming through the window, I could see several small holes on the sleeve's surface. Tiny holes, like needle punctures. And on the inside of the sleeve, there were stains from a clear liquid that had soaked in. Not completely dry yet. When I touched it with my finger, it was slightly damp. Odorless. Not water. Something else. My breathing stopped. My heart started pounding violently. My hands trembled. No, this wasn't my usual tremor. This was fear. Mom, what are these holes? Sophie's innocent voice sounded far away. I couldn't answer. Even trying to open my mouth, no words came out. I could only stare at the sleeve. Injections. The moment that word floated into my mind, something cold ran through my entire body. Mom, Grandma was always crying that it hurt right here. Sophie's words pierced my eardrums. What? Finally, my voice came out. I turned towards Sophie. My daughter said it like it was nothing. Grandma would touch here at night and cry. She looked like it hurt. Sophie pointed to the inside of her own arm. Since when? When did this start happening? My voice cracked. Sophie tilted her head. A long time ago. Uncle Marcus said it was medicine, but Grandma's face looked really scared. The world stopped. Marcus. My husband's name. Uncle Marcus was giving Linda medicine. By injection? I asked, choosing my words carefully, trying to stay calm. But my voice was shaking. Aha. Every night. When you're sleeping, Mom. Sophie nodded innocently. Since when? Forever. Since I was little. 3 years ago. Since Sophie was 2. Since Linda collapsed. What about Aunt Vanessa? Was Aunt Vanessa there too? Aha. Sometimes. Auntie would hold down Grandma's arm. Because Grandma was trying to move. The strength left my knees. I sank to the laundry room floor. Still clutching the pajama sleeve. 3 years. Every night. Marcus. Vanessa. Had been injecting Linda with something. Linda's tears. They weren't from illness. They were from pain. From fear. Mom, what's wrong? Sophie peered worriedly into my face. I hugged my daughter. Tight, so tight. Sophie, thank you for telling me. Thank you so much. My voice shaking, I said it. In my head, everything was starting to connect. Linda's sudden illness. The unexplained diagnosis. Vanessa's words, leave the medical stuff to me. Marcus's late-night visits. My health problems. Trembling hands. Chronic fatigue. And these injection marks. Mom, is Grandma okay? Sophie's voice. I stood up, still gripping the pajama sleeve. She'll be fine, Sophie. But Mom needs to go to Mrs. Chen's for a little bit. Neighbor Mrs. Chen. Former nurse. If these marks really were injection sites, she'd know. I threw down the laundry and ran out of the laundry room with the pajamas. Sophie followed behind me. I ran down the hallway. Opened the front door. Headed to the house next door. I pounded on Mrs. Chen's door over and over. Mrs. Chen. Mrs. Chen. My voice was shaking. My breathing ragged. Sophie was gripping the hem of my clothes. The door opened, and Mrs. Chen stood there looking surprised. Claire. What's wrong? You look. Instead of answering, I held out the pajama sleeve. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold it. Mrs. Chen took the pajamas from my hands, frowning. Come inside. You too, Sophie. She showed us into the living room. I couldn't even sit in a chair, just stood there watching Mrs. Chen examine the pajamas. Mrs. Chen moved to the window and held the sleeve up to bright light. She put on her reading glasses and carefully felt the fabric with her fingers, checking each hole one by one. Then she brought her nose close to the stain on the inside of the sleeve. Her expression changed. Claire, where did this come from? It's Linda's pajamas. This morning, when we were about to do laundry, Sophie found it. Mrs. Chen looked at me. A serious look in her eyes. Claire, sit down. Gentle but firm. I obeyed. My knees were shaking. Mrs. Chen turned to Sophie. Sophie, there are cookies in the kitchen. Could you get some? Sophie nodded happily and ran to the kitchen. She wanted to keep the child away. This was that serious. Mrs. Chen sat across from me and spread out the pajamas. Claire, these are injection marks. The words I'd expected. But actually hearing them made the blood in my body freeze. Medical treatment? From a visiting nurse or something? I desperately searched for some normal explanation. Mrs. Chen shook her head. No. This isn't medical treatment. Claire, I was a nurse for 30 years. Proper medical procedures don't leave marks like this. And this frequency is abnormal. This sleeve alone shows more than 10 injection sites. But Linda's bedridden and needs medication. When oral medication and 4 lines exist, why would someone need to inject directly into the arm every night? And through the pajamas? I was at a loss for words. And this stain. Mrs. Chen pointed to the inside of the sleeve. It's still damp. We need to analyze this. Analyze? I have a former colleague who's a clinical lab technician. Tomorrow, I'll take this sleeve and have it tested. We'll find out what was being injected. I could only nod. Claire, can I ask you something else? Mrs. Chen's voice became even more serious. Your hands, they're shaking constantly. Since when? I looked at my hands. They were definitely shaking. As usual. About 6 months ago. I thought it was stress from caregiving. Any other symptoms? Chronic fatigue. Can't get up in the morning. Can't concentrate. But I thought that was also from caregiving and raising Sophie. Mrs. Chen sighed deeply. Claire, you should get a blood test too. Right now. Me? But why? If poison was being administered to Linda. Poison. The moment I heard that word, the room spun. You might be a target too. I gripped the back of the chair. I couldn't stay standing. Who? Why? I don't know. But Claire, your symptoms are typical of poisoning. Trembling hands, fatigue, loss of concentration. Especially similar to chronic arsenic poisoning. Arsenic. Poison. Chronic poisoning. But who would poison me? I started to say, then stopped. The food I ate every day. Who prepared it? Who was in the house? Marcus. Vanessa. Mrs. Chen, what should I? First, we gather evidence. Wait for the pajama analysis results. And you get a blood test. I'll introduce you to a doctor I know. Someone who can test you without anyone knowing. What about the police? Without evidence, they won't move. But with evidence, they will. So for now, stay calm. Act normal. Don't let anyone notice. I took a deep breath. All right. Sophie came back from the kitchen, holding cookies in her hands, smiling happily. I had to protect this child. Protect Linda. And uncover the truth. 2 days later, Mrs. Chen called. Claire, the results are in. Come right away. I let Sophie play in the yard next door and went into Mrs. Chen's house. On the living room table lay a test report. Sit down, Claire. I sat. My heart was pounding violently. The stain on the pajamas tested positive for a drug called succinylcholine. Succinylcholine. It's a muscle relaxant. Used medically, but normally only during surgery as an anesthetic aid, under strict physician supervision. With long-term administration, muscles become paralyzed and movement becomes impossible. And if administration continues, Mrs. Chen cut off her words. The person becomes bedridden. The words leaked from my mouth. Yes. Linda's condition isn't illness. Someone intentionally created it. The room fell silent. And this. Mrs. Chen handed me another envelope. Your blood test results. My trembling hands opened the envelope. I scanned the report. Technical terms lined the page, but one section was circled in red marker. Trace amounts of arsenic detected. The letters blurred. Claire, you were being poisoned too. Small amounts, over a long period. Not to kill you. To weaken you. Why? I don't know. But someone was trying to incapacitate both you and Linda. There must be a reason. I stood up. My knees were shaking. But now wasn't the time to collapse. I'm going to the police. Wait, Claire. The evidence isn't enough yet. Just pajamas and a blood test don't identify the perpetrator. But wait a little longer. Let's gather more evidence. To catch the culprit for sure. Mrs. Chen placed her hand on my shoulder. Claire, you're a strong woman. You've cared for Linda for 3 years. With that strength, you can uncover the truth. I'll help you. I nodded. Tears ran down my cheeks. Tears of anger. Tears of sadness. I didn't know myself. Thank you, Mrs. Chen. No need for thanks. That's what real neighbors do. Walking home, I was thinking. 3 years. I'd cared for Linda. Every day, feeding her, washing her, talking to her. Trying to understand the meaning of Linda's tears. But all that time, Linda was being poisoned. And so was I. Who? Why? I didn't have the answers yet. But I would find them. For Linda. For Sophie. And for myself. The truth would come out. That day, I made up my mind. When I got home, I went to Linda's room. I sat by the bedside and held Linda's hand. Linda's eyes looked at me. Linda, I'm sorry. I was too late to notice. But now I understand. You weren't sick. Someone was hurting you. Large tears fell from Linda's eyes. I will uncover the truth. I promise. Linda's finger moved slightly. It seemed like she was trying to squeeze my hand back. Let's fight together, Linda. You're not alone anymore. The next day, I told my former colleague Rachel everything. Not by phone, but in person. On a park bench, watching Sophie play. Rachel listened silently to my story. Then she said, "Claire, I know a lawyer. She specializes in elder abuse. Her name's Patricia Wu. I'll contact her right away." 3 days later, I was in Patricia Wu's office. Together with Mrs. Chen, I laid out all the evidence before her. The pajama sleeve, test reports, my blood test results. Patricia carefully reviewed each item and looked up. "This is clear evidence of attempted murder and elder abuse. But to win in court, we need decisive evidence identifying the perpetrator." "How?" "By recording their actions. Video evidence would be perfect." Mrs. Chen pulled out a small camera. "Let's use this. We can install it in Linda's room ceiling." "Claire, you act normal. Pretend you don't know anything." I nodded. I was afraid. But more than that, I was angry. That night, Mrs. Chen and I installed the camera in Linda's room ceiling. Disguised as a smoke detector, no one would notice. The lens was pointed at the bed. "We're ready. Now we wait." I continued my normal routine. Smiled at Marcus and said, "Welcome home," accepted the special food Vanessa brought, continued caring for Linda. But in my heart, I was constantly thinking about the camera. Would they come tonight? That night, 11 p.m. I was in the bedroom with my eyes closed, pretending to sleep. I heard footsteps in the hallway. 2 sets. The sound of Linda's door opening. The camera was recording everything. The next morning, we checked the footage at Mrs. Chen's house. What appeared on screen was a scene I didn't want to see. Marcus and Vanessa entering Linda's room. Vanessa asking, "How much longer?" Marcus answering, "A few more months. Once Claire's too sick to fight, we'll have it all." Marcus exposing Linda's arm. Linda's eyes widening in fear. Her mouth moving. A small voice audible, "Stop." But Marcus pulled out a syringe. Vanessa saying, "She's resisting." Marcus coldly answering, "Doesn't matter. She can't move anyway." The needle piercing Linda's arm. Linda's face contorting in pain. And Vanessa's voice, "What about Linda? When?" Marcus answering, "Once the paperwork goes through. We'll make it look like natural causes." The screen shook. Because I'd kicked my chair. They were planning to kill her. Linda. Me. Patricia placed her hand on my shoulder. "This is enough. But let's dig deeper. We need to establish motive." I went to the bank and property registry. With Patricia's legal authority, we looked into assets in Linda's name. The results were shocking. 2 houses in Linda's name, worth a combined $1.3 million. Already transferred to Vanessa's name. Investment accounts too, $450,000 moved to Vanessa's account. The signatures looked like Linda's. But when we hired a handwriting analyst, the result came back, extremely likely to be forgeries. Total, $1.75 million. That's how much they'd stolen. Still not enough. We don't see the core of the motive. Patricia said. Then she suggested we thoroughly search Linda's room. While Marcus and Vanessa were out, I searched Linda's room from top to bottom. Under the bed, the back of the closet, behind drawers. And I found an envelope under the mattress. Inside was a note written in shaky handwriting. "Marcus is poisoning me. I am Linda Chen, former prosecutor. This is evidence." Dated records followed. January 2022, first injection. June, legs stopped working. September, started mixing something into Claire's food. And there were also labels from medicine bottles apparently recovered from the trash. Linda knew everything. But her body couldn't move, she couldn't speak. So she'd left evidence. Patricia continued investigating. And a stunning fact came to light. Marcus and Vanessa's birth mother was someone else. Linda was their father's second wife, their stepmother. Their birth mother had disappeared 30 years ago, and when their father died, Linda inherited everything. That's why they resented Linda. They thought she'd stolen from them. Patricia said. Furthermore, when we looked into Dr. Harrison's past, 5 years ago he'd almost been sued for medical fraud. He'd settled for $50,000. And we found records of $800,000 being transferred to an overseas account in Marcus's name from a bank in the Cayman Islands. The final push came from Vanessa's husband Brian. I told him the truth. Brian knew nothing. That his wife was abusing his mother-in-law and stealing money. That's a lie. Vanessa. But when I showed him the evidence, his face changed. And he found the decisive email on Vanessa's computer. Marcus transferred another $50,000 this month. 6 more months and Claire will be completely incapacitated. Brian said in a trembling voice. Let's go to the police. Right now. Patricia, me, Mrs. Chen, Brian. The 4 of us went to the police station. We submitted all the evidence. Video recordings, drug analysis, blood tests, property transfer records, signature forgery analysis, records of bribes to Dr. Harrison, Linda's evidence notes. The FBI Financial Crimes Unit and local police launched a joint investigation. The day of arrest came suddenly. I was preparing dinner when the doorbell rang. Marcus said, "Who is it?" and opened the door, and police officers rushed in. Marcus Johnson, Vanessa Brown, you're under arrest for attempted murder, elder abuse, fraud, and document forgery. Marcus's face turned pale. What are you talking about? Claire. I came out of the kitchen. Calmly, clearly, I said. You tried to murder your own mother. And me too. An officer showed the video on a tablet. The screen showed Marcus administering an injection. Marcus's knees buckled. Vanessa screamed. This is a misunderstanding. But Brian stepped forward. It's not a misunderstanding, Vanessa. I found your emails. The color drained from Vanessa's face. Dr. Harrison was also arrested at home. Evidence of the $50,000 bribe was the clincher. 6 months later, in court. Linda sat in a wheelchair at the witness stand. 4 months after stopping the drugs, she was gradually recovering. She still couldn't walk, but her speech was starting to return. My stepchildren tried to eliminate me for money. Linda's voice trembled but was strong. But my granddaughter Sophie saved my life. Sophie also testified in a special room for children. A kind female officer accompanied her. Uncle Marcus hurt Grandma every night. Grandma was crying. I also took the stand. They tried to weaken me so I couldn't fight. But they failed. I will fight. For Linda. For my daughter. And for everyone else who might suffer the same fate. Sentencing day. The judge read out. Marcus Johnson, 15 years. Attempted murder, elder abuse, fraud, document forgery. Vanessa Brown, 12 years. Same charges plus permanent revocation of nursing license. Dr. Harrison, 10 years, permanent revocation of medical license, $2 million in civil damages. All property was returned to Linda's name. Marcus's overseas account of $800,000 was also seized. The divorce was finalized too. I received $200,000 in alimony and full custody of Sophie. Linda created a new will. all her assets to Sophie and me. As I left the courtroom, I made eye contact with Marcus. He tried to say something, but I turned my back. I had nothing more to say to him. A year and a half later, Linda was walking slowly through the garden with a cane. Gradually recovering from the effects of the muscle relaxant, she could now walk short distances on her own. Rehabilitation was tough, but she didn't give up. The toxins left my body completely. The trembling in my hands stopped, the chronic fatigue disappeared. When I woke in the morning, I felt energy filling my body. I also resumed graphic design work. As a freelancer working from home, I could be near Linda and Sophie while also reclaiming my career. Marcus was spending his time alone in prison. Former colleagues abandoned him, the pharmaceutical company fired him immediately. Blacklisted in the industry, no possibility of parole. Serving the full 15 years. No one came to visit. Same with Vanessa. Her nursing license permanently revoked. Her husband Brian divorced her and took custody of their 2 children. "I won't let a monster raise my kids," Brian said. After release, Vanessa could never work in healthcare or caregiving again. When Dr. Harrison's past medical fraud was reported, 5 other victims came forward. Civil lawsuits resulted in over $2 million in damages ordered. In prison, he was despised as a former doctor. The 3 of us bought a small house. A single-family home with a yard. In Linda's name, but the will stated it would go to Sophie and me. Sunday morning, the 3 of us making pancakes in the kitchen. "Sophie, you've gotten so good at this," Linda said with a smile. "Because Grandma taught me," Sophie answered proudly. "Linda's recipe is the best." I laughed too. Sitting on the living room sofa, Linda told old stories. "I worked as a prosecutor for 30 years, you know. My job was bringing bad people to justice." "Like Uncle Marcus?" Sophie asked. Linda nodded. "Yes, people like him. Mrs. Chen still visits sometimes. She's coming for tea this afternoon." "Claire, you've really become strong. Mrs. Chen always says that. Without you, Mrs. Chen, we wouldn't be here now." "It's all right. That's what real neighbors do." Rachel also visits once a month. "Claire, you're more radiant than before. I feel like I'm finally living my own life." I truly felt that way. One day, sitting on the garden bench, I asked Linda. "Linda, Marcus and Vanessa weren't your biological children, were they?" Linda gazed into the distance and answered. "No. When I married their father, they were 8 and 5. I tried to love them in my own way, but they only saw the money." Silence flowed. "But Claire, you were different. Even without blood ties, you treated me as family. I thought that was natural. That's real family." Sophie ran over. "Mom. Grandma. Look at this flower. It's beautiful, Sophie." Linda smiled. "I love you, Grandma. And Mom. We love you too." I held Sophie close and said quietly. "Family isn't about blood. It's the people who protect you when you're weak, who believe in the truth, who fight when you can't fight. That's family." Linda squeezed my hand. "The day you fought for me, you became my real daughter. Not because of marriage. Because of love." The 3 of us sat at the garden table. Linda's hands still trembled sometimes, but she was laughing at Sophie's drawings. My hands no longer shook. In the distance, we could hear children's laughter. "We're safe now," I said. "This is our home." Linda answered. "Forever and ever," Sophie shouted. We laughed together. We'd found real family. A family bound not by blood, but by love. And that bond had the strength to withstand any hardship. New morning sunlight illuminated the garden flowers.